My name is Jayoza. I teach, mentor, and coach people on public speaking so that they can give winning high stakes speeches, whether it's one on one in a job interview or in front of a small group, let's say at a business or sales meeting, or in front of a large audience at a conference. The speech tip that I'm going to give you, I believe, is one of the most important tips that I've ever given. And I'm going to spend some time explaining this. So this video is going to be a little long, but bear with me, and I think you're going to learn a lot. Based on my experience giving speeches and studying great speakers and watching other people speak on TV or in live situation, there is one thing that is so important that you have to keep in mind when you want to win. Now, one thing I always used to tell people is that when you're giving a speech, your job is to make the audience smarter. And I do agree with that in some sense, but I would not lead with that anymore. I have just learned, even after teaching, mentoring, and coaching, that that is not a good advice. You don't want that to be the main reason for giving a speech, to make the audience smarter. Because you really can't make the audience smarter. The audience has to make themselves smarter. Similarly, you can't motivate people. They're going to have to motivate themselves. But there is one thing that you can do. You have to take their current state and create a difference, a delta that is so big that they notice it. People notice big changes. They don't notice small changes. So let's say if you are okay, I have to make you feel like your okay is not right. You really are going to be much worse, or your state is about to change and it's going to get much worse than what you think it is. And if you do what I'm telling you, or maybe elect me, your future state is going to be a lot better and it's going to be secure. So what I've done is I've created the delta here that is so pronounced, you're going to notice it. That's all I can really do as a speaker. That's my job, to create that, to sell the delta, to create the delta, to sell the delta, and that's it. I can't make you smarter. Now, if I create the delta, then it might motivate you to maybe go to my website to get more information. Maybe you'll go and watch more of my videos. But your job when you're giving a speech, whether it's for a job interview, whether it's for a sales meeting, or whether you're at a conference and trying to persuade them to take some action on some idea, you need to create that delta. Without that delta, the audience is not going to get it. You're wasting your time. It's almost like you're making noise. Don't make noise. Use the delta force approach, as I like to call it. So let me give you two examples, good examples on what I mean. So let's take the first speaker, Martin Luther King. We all have read, have seen, and some of them could even recite the famous "I Have a Dream" speech, right? When you get a chance, go through that speech again. And what is exactly Martin Luther King really doing in that speech? Why is that speech so great? The speech is so great is because of the delta he creates. He says, look, the current state of African Americans is dire. They're living in poverty. They're not equal. It is just not good for a country that believes in equality and pursuit of happiness. They haven't gotten their part of the deal based on the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. But I have a future where I have a dream where things are going to be so much better for everybody if they had the same right as other white Americans. And then the black Americans and white Americans can come together and the future of America will be so much better. He created a huge delta. And people to this day consider that one of the greatest speeches that has been given thus far um, in the last 50 years. Delta Force. That's what that was. Delta Force approach. Recently, Donald Trump was elected. And what did he do? He did the same thing. Not the way Martin Luther King was trying to effect, but he used the same Delta Force approach to win the election. And he had to win the key states that made him the president, the Midwest states like Pennsylvania, Ohio, Wisconsin, and Michigan. And what did he do? Now, if you look at the facts are, again, we're not trying to make people smarter. We're trying to take their current state and create a delta that is so big that they start believing what you're saying rather than the facts out there. So purpose of a speaker is not to make the audience smarter, but make them feel the delta. Make them see the delta that, my God, things are really falling apart. And if I elect this guy, things will be a lot better. That's the kind of delta he created. And he did it in a very clever way. And he basically told people, even if they had a job, that their current situation either is terrible or it's gonna get much worse. So he basically told them that their current state, if they're feeling bad, he made them feel even worse. If they were okay, he made them feel terrible. Like, oh my God, I'm okay, but I don't think this is gonna last. I think I'm agreeing with him that my situation is about to get worse. But if I elect this guy, and his whole slogan was "Make America Great Again." I mean, what can be better than great again, right? And great again conjures up all kinds of images, whatever it is. There's no specificity. Like, oh, in the past, America was so great. Everybody had jobs. People were happy. You can send kids to college. You can enjoy your weekend. You can go on vacation. And that's what he's kind of conjuring up and saying, okay, my situation right now, I'm not happy with. Terrible. Future. Great. Great. I'm going to vote for that guy. I'm going to vote for that guy. He's the answer. Did he make the people smarter? Hell no. That's not what he was trying to do. He was trying to win. Look, when you're giving a speech, you better go and try to win. Otherwise, don't waste people's time. And that's what Donald Trump tried. And he won. And he succeeded. So, how do you use it? That's what you're probably asking. So let's say you have a job interview. And I coach people who have interviews. And one of the things I always tell them is, you've got to create that delta. The current state, whatever it is, has to be bad. Otherwise, why are they talking to you? And if it isn't bad, make it worse. And then you are the answer who's going to make it much better. Create that delta, whether it's for a job interview, whether it's for a sales meeting, or whether you're trying to sell an idea in front of hundreds of thousands of people. The bigger the delta, the more convincing, more persuasive, and more effective you're going to be as a speaker. If the delta is very narrow, then you're just making noise. So the question is, what do you want to do? Do you want to make a difference, or do you just want to make a noise? That's what you have to ask yourself. If you want to make a difference, make the delta visible so that people see the difference. If you do that, you'll be very successful. This is the most important tip that I can ever give you. And if you keep this in mind, your future speeches are going to be so much better. Now, you might say, well, what about the other aspect of it? Yes, there is a performance aspect of it, and there is the messaging and all that. But it all starts with this. If you don't get this right, then the rest of it isn't going to make any difference. You could be a great performer. It's not going to make any difference. It has to be consistent with it. The performance has to be consistent with the delta that you're creating. The delta, the performance kind of go together. Because when you're giving a speech, you're not there to make people smarter. If I hear that one more time, I'm looking at a loser speaking. Your job is to create the delta so that people suddenly can see the difference. If they don't see the difference, they're not going to really pay attention, and they're not going to take action. And folks, there's a lot of history behind this. I mean, you go down a history from Patrick Henry. Without him, it's doubtful America would even be a country. That's how Revolutionary War started. Abraham Lincoln with the Gettysburg speech, the delta that he creates. The current situation, much worse, the future, right? And then Martin Luther King. The current situation paints it in a real bad, it's pretty dire. The future, very hopeful. Donald Trump did the same thing. Now, you might say, well, but that's not true. Again, this is not a matter of what's true or what's not. The question is, the result speaks for itself. Yes, some people are demagogues who do this, and some people do it for positive things. But the technique is the same. They really know how to create the delta to the point where people believe them and spread the message and take action and change history. And that's what you have to do when you're giving a speech, whether it's one-on-one, in front of a small group, or in front of a large audience. Use the Delta Force approach. It works, it's proven, and it can make you succeed in just about anything. Let me know what you think, and thank you for watching, and use this method and be successful.